I'm Scott Elmore. It's the 23rd of December, 2022. It's Friday. This is my daily vlog of life as a world traveler. I'm still here in Houston, Texas, in Friendswood on the south side in Galveston County, and we are in the process of getting ready for Christmas. I know for those of you from the north, this doesn't look like Christmas, and for those of you from Nicaragua, this looks really cold. It's kind of both. It's cold for us now, but growing up in New York, we're used to the snow. The blizzard is still going on pretty heavily right now. Back home, we got out of Buffalo just in time. The airlines are all shut down. The airport is closed. The thruway is closed. It is a huge disaster up there and is going to be for some time. So for those who are watching the show, we did not get stuck in any of that. We have been free for a couple days. In fact, yesterday we were here all day and today, so we're doing just fine. My dad is doing okay. He's not in the area that is so bad, and he's, you know, stocked up at home and stuff, and he's okay, and he has power and all that. So everyone we know back home is fine, but it is a really big blizzard, and the U.S. is hugely impacted. So for anyone who's seeing this in the future or whatever, this has been a week of incredible amounts of snow and super deep freezing temperatures and all of that. That has been going on significantly. Valentina is still traveling as well. She is going to be getting out to Colorado today at the end of the day. So she's been doing a lot of driving, spending a lot of time seeing eastern Colorado, Nebraska, and Iowa, just the stuff that people come to the United States to see. I know you are all very jealous of her. I've just noticed that the camera is no longer recording. I have no idea what's happened, so we're going to stop and come back and see what's going on. All right, so that was my first ever crash with the GoPro 11. I actually had to take the GoPro out of the case, pull the battery and everything. And when I popped it back in and started it back up, this is something I've never experienced before. It actually said repairing your file, went through and fixed everything. And even though the camera had frozen at 24 seconds, it actually got all of that. I went back, did the replay, and it was able to show me the entire video, including me saying it crashed. So really impressed. The improvements with the GoPro 11 over the GoPro 9 are so significant, not just in the hardware, but the software and the processing and its error recovery and its uploading capabilities, all those things. It really is. I know a lot of people look at the GoPros from generation to generation and say, you know, it's very incremental. It's this tiny little steps forward you barely notice. And in some ways that's true. If you're watching the show, you don't really notice a change in the generations of the GoPro because it's essentially the same lens, essentially the same image format, essentially the same low light performance and so forth. But the reality is that as a user of the GoPro, the actual number of improvements, whether it's easier to keep clean or easier to keep cool or easier to use and workflows and all those things are real improvements that you can really feel, right? And from generation to generation, yes, I tend to skip a little bit, and that makes it a little bit more obvious. If you were buying every camera every year, I would probably have a bit of that same feeling that I barely noticed the change from one year to the next. But going from the 9 to the 11, which is a 2-year jump, got a loud Texas truck here, and that little bit of change is enough to really feel just a large number of improvements. Now, very likely I won't be getting the GoPro 12, but I will likely get the 13 and probably feel the same thing again. I did notice going from the 4 to the 5 a pretty big jump, but that's because they included the gimbal. And going from the 5 to the 9, of course, was so many years of improvements, and the move from manual gimbals to the third generation, because it started with the 7 and then the 8 and then my 9, third generation of digital stabilization with Hypersmooth. Those things were so significant that each generation I have managed to have a pretty significant upgrade in my cameras. The 11 is technically the smallest jump that I've had yet, and just the number of things are really significant. So if you're, I know a lot of people who watch this show wonder, is the GoPro something that may make sense for them? Would they be interested in it? Would they like it? And pretty universally, I mean, it depends on your use case, of course, but really commonly, I like to say it's so much better than you think. If you're contemplating it, if it falls into I think I could use that category, then there's a really good chance that you're actually going to find the GoPro to be better than you're anticipating that it would be, because it really is just a marvel of engineering, and they do such a great job and manage to maintain a price that is significant, but not not out of line in any way. So I've stayed very happy for the last 8 years now that I've been using the GoPro, and with each new GoPro that I have, I find that I use it more and more, which I know is pretty significant given the last 2 years of practically daily use of the GoPro. It has become essentially attached to the end of my arm. So yes, if it's something that you're considering, the fact that it's come up as something you would consider probably is something that you will really enjoy. It is just so useful. And coming up in the next couple days, because I have deliveries coming tomorrow, I want to do an episode and show some of the little things that I use with my GoPro that I think make a really big difference. Because there's, as a GoPro owner, there's a bunch of stuff that you never really think about. When you're first getting into GoPro, you'll think about all kinds of like major like tripod things and waterproof things or whatever. Those, of course, you're going to look and be like, oh, this exciting accoutrements that I can purchase. But the things that actually matter day to day, you may overlook pretty significantly and may use, like me, a GoPro for years before you finally decide to make the leap on some pretty minor things that may make a very large difference for you. I do want to point out there's a lot of sun out here, and I actually feel it more than I do when I'm in Nicaragua. I think we're at a higher altitude or just really low cloud cover. I feel my skin getting a little bit crispy as I talk out here, and normally I'm out in the sun all day in Nicaragua, and while I'm warm, I don't feel the burning sensation like I do today. All right, today's topic, I have an interesting one. Since we're here in the United States, I'm actually going to do a guide to North American, that's US and Canadian, bathrooms for Nicaraguans. So we're going to take the opposite tack. In most of my videos, I'm doing a topic where we're introducing Central America or travel topics or whatever, mostly to an American or Western European audience, Canadian audience. But today we're going to flip that around and introduce those areas for Nicaraguans, because I think a lot of Nicaraguans will find this interesting and useful, but also I think it's interesting to see kind of how we have to present that to Nicaraguans for North Americans to understand what all we find surprising in the opposite direction. So let's get started. First things first, when you get in to that North American bathroom, the first thing that you're probably going to notice is that there are multiple switches, and one of those switches is going to operate a fan. This is not universal, but it's really common. You're not going to find it so much in hotels, but you are going to find it very commonly in homes. And it is customary and considered a courtesy. Go ahead and flip that fan on when you get into the bathroom, because two reasons. One, it makes some cover noise and just makes it a little bit more comfortable to use the bathroom. Not something that people think about in Central America, but in North America, people are very wary of the noise in a bathroom, and they like to have fans that run, and it helps provide some white noise, and it simply makes it more comfortable to use the bathroom. But that's not the main reason it's there. That's just a nice aside. But that is the reason why people generally panic and like to turn it on. The other reason is for ventilation. In Central America, most of the time, not always, but most of the time, your bathrooms are going to be open air. So they're naturally ventilated. You don't have to do anything special about it. But when you're in North America, most bathrooms are sealed completely. There's no airflow whatsoever. So you need to turn on a fan in order to get any of that air out of there, both for temperature, to get some movement. Who wants to be in a bathroom with no air movement? But also, it's going to smell a bit. So that's important that you run it for that reason. So don't worry about using it. Don't think it's for some special purpose. It's for you. When you get into that bathroom, you just go right ahead. You turn on the light, turn on the fan. Whole time you're in there, even if you're just brushing your teeth, feel free to run the fan. That's how we do. A bunch of people just showed up. So I'm going to move to another location so we can keep filming. Be right back. All right, hopefully we'll get a little bit less crispy over here and a little bit more quiet standing out on the sidewalk and get a little bit of view of the neighborhood here in Friendswood. So number two, what's the next big thing when you get into the bathroom? Okay, this is going to be the biggest change of expectations than anything. Although the fan, I think, is really surprising. People are thrown off by that because it's like a fan everywhere. Is that really, how is that universal? But it is. Everybody uses a fan to keep that noise and that air ventilation going. The next thing is flushing toilet paper. You don't have to wonder about this because everyone does, right? Do you flush toilet paper everywhere in North America all the time? The answer is yes, everywhere, all the time. There is no exception to this. There is nobody who is not flushing toilet paper in North America. US and Canada, universally, don't ask, don't wonder, don't question, just flush it. That is, we flush everything all the time Even wipes, make sure they are flushable, disposable wipes. Don't flush the regular baby wipes that are not meant to be flushed. But really commonly, there are flushable wipes. Just go ahead and flush those. Don't even worry about it, right? Maybe give things a couple flushes, but you flush all that toilet paper, all that stuff. If you see a trash can right next to the toilet, that does not indicate that it is for any type of toilet paper or wipes or anything of the sort. It is not. I know it looks just like the trash cans in Central America. It feels like an indicator that that is what you're supposed to do. It is not. It would never cross the mind of anybody in North America to consider using the trash can in that way. Don't do it. That would be the biggest faux pas that you could possibly reasonably make in a North American bathroom. That is, North Americans, it is so outlandish, I think, is the best way to put it, to consider not flushing toilet paper, to consider putting it in a trash can, that even explaining that it's something that you would do somewhere else is often not understood or not believed. So don't question this, and don't say, but. This is one of those situations, there is no but, pun intended, that you can say it is absolutely 100% flush that toilet paper. Just do it. Don't ask anyone. Don't look quizzitively. Go ahead. Turn on the fan. Always safe to use the fan. Flush the toilet paper. All right, the next big thing is in that shower. Look up above. There's no suicide shower, right? There's no electric heater mounted to the end of the shower head. That doesn't exist. They're always going to be passive. You don't have to. You may get ones with lights in them, and that's a battery. It's not hooked to the wall. In the United States, to the best of my knowledge, it is illegal to have, or at least against code, to have AC power brought in to the shower in that area. It doesn't matter why you want it there. You're not allowed to have it. You could generally get away with, like, if it's your own home and you don't want to sell it, you're sometimes allowed to violate code depending on where you are. No one's going to do that, right? They don't sell those in the United States reasonably. It just doesn't exist. So you can look and be, oh, interesting. But then there's going to be hot water. There's going to be, look down, you'll see in most cases, you're going to have multiple knobs for the shower. This is the same goes for the sink, right? The one on the right is your cold, the one on your left is your hot. Once in a while, it'll be different, maybe 0.1% of the time. And when that happens, people will say, yeah, it's hooked up backwards. It was an accident, right? It is always supposed to be cold on the right, hot on the left. That is just how it works. And you may ask, well, what are the chances there's actually hot water? It's 100%, 99.99%. Everybody has hot water in the United States. The groundwater is way too cold. The air temperature is way too cold. If you were to take super cold showers, that would be a great way to make yourself sick. You would be getting hypothermic. So that there's always going to be warm water. In most cases, it's going to be extremely hot if you turn it on just hot, much hotter than you would expect. And that is because the expectation in North America is that you will not simply shower in hot water. You turn on a small amount of hot water with a large amount of cold water, and you blend it to get to a temperature that you find comfortable, and then that's what you use. You do not attempt to burn yourself in just pure hot water. So the system is to deliver extremely large volumes of very, very hot water because it's never meant to be used alone. That's very different than Central America, where generally if there's hot water, they expect you to use only the hot water, and it's given at a temperature that you will use it, and it's cool enough that everyone can just use it that way. People have a great varying degree of what they like to take as far as hot showers or to wash their hands with in North America, and so they just give it to you far beyond the temperature you could withstand, and let you adjust by adding cold water to it until it is to your liking. So you may get into the shower and realize that there is only one knob, not two. And you may say, this means there's no hot water here. That is not correct. There is always hot water. There is not going to be an exception to that. You will never experience an exception to that. But there are ways to have hot water with a single knob. In North America, if they do a single knob system, it is very likely to work in a common way in which the farther you turn counterclockwise, the hotter it gets, and the farther you turn clockwise, the colder it gets, and generally it turns off when you turn it all the way cold, if that's the case. In Central America, when you have a single knob and they are doing a blend, which does exist, but it is uncommon, the chances that they have that working in that universal counterclockwise hot, clockwise cold way. It's relatively low. It's almost a 50-50 chance, and even when they write down what to do, they often get it wrong. They describe it backwards. In the United States, it's probably a 90 to 10 or 9 to 1 chance. They do get it backwards from time to time, but not very often. There are also single knobs that you pull out to turn on the volume, and you counterclockwise for hot and clockwise for cold, separately from the volume of water. So there's a couple different ways that these things happen. And yes, even North Americans who do this all the time, when you go to a hotel, for example, sometimes you end up with controls that are a little bit confusing. But be aware, the one thing that will never change is that there's hot and cold and that you can adjust it. No variation on that. What sometimes varies is there could be 2 controls or 1, and sometimes you can control the volume of water, and sometimes it's only on and off. That's it. It is also pretty common, but becoming less common, that there's an additional control, sometimes a button, sometimes a switch, sometimes a knob. It could be any number of things that allows water to come out from a faucet down below and then a shower up above. In Central America, I have yet to see this. It exists, but it is very uncommon. First of all, bathtubs are uncommon in Central America, and in North America, they are not universal, but they are common. So don't be surprised when you see one, but don't be surprised if you don't have one either. It could go either way. Lots of places go for it and lots of places don't. So either way, no big deal. But if you do have that tub down below, generally that's going to be filled by a faucet down a spigot low down rather than the shower. But you could also fill it from the shower, and actually filling a tub from the shower is a great secret life hack to know how much water you're using, because it doesn't come out as fast from the shower as it does from the spigot. And when you're filling a bathtub, you simply fill a volume and know how much you've used. When you're taking a shower, some people say, oh, you've been in the shower a long time. You can say, I've only gone 2/3 of a bathtub, so I've not used it as much as taking a bath yet, so it gives you some perspective. And if you go through that, empty it and fill it up again, you know that's a lot of water. And if you barely fill it at all, you go, wow, that's not very much water. It gives you some way to keep track of that. It is becoming common in the US to not have bathtubs, especially in hotels and more modern homes, or at least in secondary bathrooms. Master baths have a tendency not to have bathtubs and to just have showers. Those are all more recent things. When I was young, pretty much everyone had a bathtub all the time. So it varies in those ways. Now the sink is going to work basically all those things the same. You're going to have the same combination of knobs, the single faucet in most cases that's going to have the blended water. Once in a while you're going to get the crazy British system. I've only seen this once or twice in my life in the US, but in England you'll see it a bit, that the hot water comes out of one and the cold water comes out of another, and there's no way to blend it together, and you simply burn yourself and freeze yourself, and it's crazy, and everyone makes fun of it. No one knows how it's supposed to work other than putting the water into the sink and then and that's gross. So they have a significant problem. Okay, so we're on to the next. You got that, right? So now we know about the hot and cold, we know about the flushing, we know about the what it means if there's a trash can there. And I should mention, what is the trash can then for, if not those things? It is generally there for sanitary items, right? Feminine products, things that are not used in the bathtub. If you're using paper towels to clean anything, you could put them in there, but not things that have normal body waste on them. Okay, and we know about the fan, right? All these things. It's surprising, but what's the biggest thing about North American bathrooms versus Central American bathrooms and European bathrooms and Asian bathrooms is that in most of the world, bathrooms have a lot of variety to them. If you're in Italy, you could have a fancy bathroom that an American would say, oh, this is like a fancier, it's just like an American bathroom with extra things. And in other times, you'll be like, that's just a hole in the ground. And all of that is Italian, and all of it is normal. And when you're in Central America, you could have suicide showers or hot water piped in, or no hot water at all, and flush or not flush. Like, there's all these variations. In North America, the biggest thing is that there isn't variation. When you go into a bathroom in the United States or Canada, you know what you're getting all the time, right? We do not tolerate variation in bathrooms, and that itself is an interesting cultural thing that people need to know about Americans and Canadians, that this one really isolated but large cultural region has absolutely no tolerance None across the entire region for any significant variation in how bathrooms are set up. And that alone just blows people's minds. They're like, bathrooms are all the same? They all work? How does that, really? Yes, they're all the same. And then if you're from this region and go anywhere else in the world, you're like, wait, people's bathrooms are all different. What do I do? And there's all these cultural norms for local regions that you got to figure out. And we panic, right? Americans and Canadians hate traveling a lot of places, not because we're uncomfortable using bathrooms in different circumstances. We can handle that for the most part. Not everyone, but most people. But what we aren't in any way equipped to do is figure out what we're supposed to do. That's the biggest problem. We panic because we are confused and lost, and you don't want to ask people those things because in North America you don't talk about those things. You don't say, how do you use a bathroom? Those aren't things we have to worry about because every bathroom's the same. So it's a cultural gap, or it's a social gap that we have that makes it really difficult for us to adjust to situations in other places because we're uncomfortable. Right, and other people will be confused because they don't understand that we have this singularity of bathroom experience that no one else does. So that's a really major part of North American culture that I've never heard anyone talk about, and yet every traveler is acutely aware of being the case. And they don't always know how to put their finger on it, but it's there. Another thing, and this is so those are the hard rules, right? In the softer rules, in Europe, you're going to find things like bidets much of the time, maybe half the time or more. They're very, very common, especially in the Mediterranean. And you come into Latin America, you're going to find them from time to time, but they're not universal. In the United States, you can assume you'll never find one. They do exist. You're certainly allowed to have them, but they're basically unknown. Most people don't know what they are. And if you do have them, the majority of people have absolutely no idea why they're there or what you're supposed to do with them or how to use them. So generally, they are not installed. They don't work well for helping a house value for resale. Hotels have no reason to put them in. And basically what you have is a relatively tiny number of people who are building houses for themselves, who don't have plans to resell them, who are also world travelers and have experienced the joy of bidets in other countries and are like, I am not giving that up, but I do want to live in America. And so they install a bidet. But in general, you're not going to find them. So don't be surprised if you simply never find one. If you do, great, but it's going to be very uncommon. So those are generally my rules about the bathroom. You're going to always have toilet paper available. I should have mentioned this as well. Toilet paper is always available, whether you're at a friend's house or you're in a restaurant or you're on the road at a road stop, you're in the airport, whatever. Every place is going to have bathrooms, just about, like even gas stations and stuff. They always have bathrooms for you. When I was a kid, they didn't all. Now it's almost everywhere. Restaurants in most states are required to provide bathrooms, even for non-guests. Hotels are always going to have bathrooms for you. All those places have bathrooms, and all of those bathrooms have toilet paper, and they're free. Right? Are there paid bathrooms in America? They exist, but they essentially don't exist. I have encountered maybe one or two in my entire life. Are you going to find ones without toilet paper? Only because they ran out and didn't know that they ran out, right? And if you tell someone, they'll instantly restock it. Toilet paper is not something you have to provide for yourself. It is not something you have to pay for. This is one of the best things about North America, especially as a traveler. You will have access to free bathrooms and free toilet paper everywhere that you go. And they expect you to have rolls, not just a few pieces. And that bathrooms are provided for public use everywhere. These things made America a much more travel-friendly place than other regions. It has allowed for a lot of mobility and business expansion in America. It's an important part of the economy. And in many cases, it is a legal requirement, but in many cases, it is simply a social one that we as a culture have said we need to have bathrooms everywhere. Nobody wants to live in a world where bathrooms are not widely available. And so it has been provided for. So it's one of the most amazing things that, again, nobody talks about. North American bathrooms are kind of fantastic, except for the bidet thing. I don't understand how North Americans have missed the boat. They've so nailed the bathroom experience, from the flushing to the shower to the hot water, all of it. They got it down, except there's no bidets. Like, how was there such a big miss? I don't know, but pun not intended. And So that, I think, is going to get you up to speed. If you're coming to North America from somewhere else in the world, but especially from Nicaragua, this is what you can expect from the North American bathroom experience. Don't be surprised. It's going to be something you're going to enjoy. You're going to be very happy with just how standard it is and how predictable your entire experience is. And most of the time, not always, but a good percentage of the time, you're going to find that the bathrooms are very large and comfortable compared to most regions of the world. Latin America, especially Nicaragua, I do find bathrooms tend to be pretty big, but North America really does a good job typically with having pretty large bathrooms most of the time. Thanks for joining me. Please remember to like and subscribe. Ask your questions. Get down there in those comments and let's talk about your bathroom experiences. Up north, down south, across Latin America and Europe, have you used the squatters in Italy? That's an adventure. Sometime I have to tell the story of my daughter on a train in northern Italy about that. If you'd like to support the channel directly, just go on down to that Buy Me a Coffee link, buymeacoffee.com/Scott Allen Miller. That comes directly to me and helps Lisa and I pay for all the things we do here on the channel. Give a shout out to Valentina there in the credits. She does all these thumbnails and makes a big difference for us here. So hey, Valentina, and of course share on social media. Tell your friends about the show. That's how we get the word out and help grow the channel. Have a happy holidays, everybody. You'll be seeing this after the new year, you'll be seeing it just before the New Year's. I hope you had a happy holidays and have a happy new year coming up. And I will see all of you on New Year's Eve, I believe, tomorrow.